Welcome, welcome. It has been a while since I have been live with you guys, and I must say I kind of miss talking to you guys about everything. But right now, definitely, we got some really important things to discuss as it is back to school season. And with that being said, as us parents, we have a lot to consider. And there's a lot going on in the world right now, particularly in the DMV area, more specifically in the DC area. And we're going to touch on quite a bit of those things. So as I wait for people to join, I just want to tell you guys, thank y'all so much for joining in the first place. Um, this is a channel that's really centered around women empowerment and firearm safety awareness. As I am a licensed firearm instructor, it's my niche to help women specifically and children. So I'm here to talk to you guys about how we can actually support one another in the community. Men, women, children, you name it. We got to work together to be able to support one another and actually be able to get things achieved. So there's a lot going on right now, as I mentioned, in DC, right? Um, and that's kind of spearing over into everywhere in the United States right now, considering it's a concern for that to continue elsewhere, as it has been said. So I wanted to touch bases on that and also what to expect as far as going back to school and how to keep your kids safe. Considering we have other things going on in the world, like mass shootings is a big situation. Our kids are going to school with such high anxiety, and I totally understand why. At first, I was thinking anxiety was a made up word, but now I'm more on the understanding what it actually is and starting to try to understand why so many kids have high anxiety. And the thing is, I don't know if I would actually blame them. If I lived in the same world as them at the age they are now, maybe I might feel the same, considering it's so much to even deal with. I mean, so let's just dive right in it. I know when I was a kid going to school, I really didn't worry about school being a place that was dangerous. I thought that I thought that maybe, this was a safe zone. I went to school every day, seeing my friends and seeing my teachers, and it was just another day. But growing up in the inner city like DC, obviously there was some concerns for safety outside of those doors. But inside the school doors, I didn't think that I was possibly not going to make it home to my family. And these are the things that these kids have to consider. So, Lynn, I see you right there saying that because they weak, coming with the anxiety thought process, I think. And I feel like I might have felt the same way too. But now when I deep dive into understanding and being a mom of four, I understand a little bit more now. And talking to kids, when I'm talking to them about firearms and the things that they tell me is a concern for them, I started to understand a little bit more their world. Just because somebody's a kid doesn't mean they don't have any stress, doesn't mean they don't have anxiety or that they shouldn't because things are being provided for them and so forth. But that's not always the case in every kid's life. Some kids have a hard knock life, and some of you guys viewing may have experienced that growing up yourself. But just picture being in this environment now, going to school with the thought process that there's a possibility that there could be mass shooting that pop out anytime. You know, that's something that's really concerning. And I can't think as to how my mind would be set on learning, and just getting all the information my teachers are trying to give me, but still concerned about my life and trying to pay attention, especially if I grow up in an environment that I don't have to worry about that so much. So those are things where I feel like it adds extra stress to them, and this is why their anxiety is probably high. One reason anyway. So, but definitely, Junior King, you're right. They don't have bills, right? They don't. Well, in some ways they don't, because some kids do actually have to find a way to feed themselves or maybe get themselves back and forth to school. Especially the closer you are to the inner city, you'll start to see those dynamics. The further you get away from the city, you probably don't have as much of that. But definitely when it comes to you know, all of these factors, is there's some other factors that may exist, such as maybe the kid is already involved in some street violence. You know, maybe the kid has parents that are, you know, always drunk or dealing with drug abuse and things like that, or other physical abuse. And so when you add all these other factors in there, safety is just like our prime need. Everybody needs to feel a sense of security and safety. And that is something that's a big part as to why a lot of these kids may have anxiety. Even though we may think that they feel safe within their four walls of their home, you know, they may not feel safe walking out the door. They may not feel safe going into school. And the reasons for this is the knowing. You know, I know social media is out here and it's taking off and it's exposing us to so many things. Sometimes knowledge can be a little bit dangerous. Let's just really think about it. You know, when people were growing up in the 80s and 90s, it was more so about like, do as I say, not as I do. And, you know, that thought process. Now that doesn't work for child rearing these days because there's so much that they learn. There were so many things that our parents may have been able to shelter us from. And now it's hard for us as parents to shelter our kids from much because they're going to get it, and they're going to get it sooner than you and I may have gotten it. And that has been the biggest challenge. And these are all factors as to why these kids may feel a bit of anxiety, and some other factors, some things that you and I may have done as a parent. We always want to give our kids stuff better than what we had, right? That's always the goal. But let's really think about what that actually causes in our kid. A person who has everything, has no need or want for anything, what are they going to aspire to do or be? Let's just think about that for a minute. Because honestly, when we take a look at these kids and we find out that they don't care about life, or they feel like they're not afraid of nothing, or, you know, these are some thought processes as to maybe these kids' needs are all really being met too much. They're getting too much and maybe not earning it. And those are all factors into those situations. But definitely we have a lot to think about when it comes to those things. So I want to say again, thank you and welcome for joining. If this is your first time here, please press that subscribe button, because this is what's going to help you stay tuned to the lives that I do and other videos that I put out. This is a woman empowerment channel and firearm safety awareness channel. However, we talk about many things that are in the community, such as what's happening right now in DC with the National Guard and the federal agents and all the things that's happening with that. And because it's back to school time, I definitely thought, hey, it makes perfect sense to talk about the safety surrounding all of that. Going back to school, the things to expect as a parent, and also what's happening specifically in DC right now. So let's jump right into this. Really, America, we got to do better. We got to do better. There's so many things going on right now that specifically in DC, we're talking about the National Guard, we're talking about the federal agents, all these things that's happening. And a lot of the times when we talk about violence or gun violence in DC specifically, everybody want to say, hey, it's the YNs. And it might be facts, okay? I'm not rebutting any of that. What I am saying is, why is it the YNs? I mean, what is so different about their street violence versus street violence before? You know, and why is it happening so much now? These are questions that we need to understand, and these are things we need to investigate in order for us to make a better future for ourselves. Because really, where are you on the side of the fence of, do you think it's right for the National Guard to be there and the federal agents to be there, or you think they should get out? So I'm really curious on you guys' thoughts about that. So please put that in the comment section. I'd really like to know who I'm speaking with today and where your mindset is about that. Because I'm thinking about the consequences, who does this affect? Now, of course, I don't live in the city anymore. I must admit, I don't see it on a daily basis. I don't really know if I really fully grasp the gravitude of how bad it has gotten. I just know when I was growing up there, it was already bad. And so they say crime has gotten less. I don't know how, but they said it's less. I don't know. But those are things where it's like, yeah, we got to do better. And we need to figure out a solution to the problem. And is this really a solution that we need to do? Now, the whole other thing about this is about cleaning up DC from the homeless as well, because DC needs to be beautified, right? So when it comes to that, my thought process is, where are these homeless people going? And who is going to keep them safe? And, you know, because some of them are not there for choice. Some of them are there by choice. Some of them have mental health issues and things like that. So it's a lot of safety concerns revolving all of that. And we're talking about, we have somewhere for them to go. Where? Watch out, Virginia. Watch out, Maryland, because they got to be coming. Got to be coming that way. Because honestly, it's already bad enough economic wise for everyone. I've noticed even in my area that I've seen a lot more homeless people in general before all of this took place. And I'm like, it's just getting hard out there for everybody. So when it comes to this whole situation, we got to consider these are people. No one is a robot, and they have needs, and they feel that they need a sense of security just like everyone else. And so how do we go about that? I actually have another video that I've actually posted, a full interview with a woman that's a social worker. Her name is Queenie, and the video is actually called Hope in the Streets. So if you guys get a chance, check that video, Hope in the Streets. We talk about a lot more as far as what the needs are in the homeless community and how this whole Trump administration actions of cleaning up DC is going to affect other places like Virginia and Maryland directly. So definitely, if you want to know more about that, check that video out. Junior King, you said DC is a horrible place. I'm sure the residents are happy. I've seen a lot of videos. As I said, I don't live there no more, but I stay my ears to the street. I've been seeing a lot of videos of, you know, some elderly women, maybe elderly men that are very much happy about that change happening. But then I'm hearing other reports about people feeling like, oh, they just need to get out. This is not the way to deal with it. And so I'm understanding it both sides of the fence, really. Because when you think about it, you as a police officer, they have a certain job and they have a certain approach to things. But when you talk about the National Guard, our military and our federal agents, they're not trained to de-escalate. They're trained to like stop the threat, like it by any means, okay? And they've already been given permission to do what they need to do, what they need to do. So this is where the concern comes in, because at the end of the day, these are still citizens of DC, whether they're YNs or whatever adults or they're homeless people. You know, this is why this is a struggle for me to even go on one side or the other of my own opinion. I'm really just standing back, just trying to observe and learn right now before I actually make any decision on how I feel about it all. And DMV Renovations, welcome, welcome. You said DC needs to keep military in the streets. I'm done with young kids dying. Ha, good point, good point. And I think that's the same thing Junior King was saying as well. You know, that is a concern because you have all these young kids out here that is wanting to be a thug. And they're out there like doing things with minimum consequences. They already know that they're going to basically get a slap on the wrist. And so therefore they just go out there and do whatever. And so I'm hearing too, it's a lot of young ladies out there too. Don't get it twisted, you guys. It's a lot of young ladies out here. I've been talking to like the DC security teams at schools, and they're telling me the girls is off the hook. The girls is the ones that's definitely the most rowdy and getting into stuff as well. And so with that being said, even some of the videos I watched on Instagram earlier, that's happening in DC, there has been some cases where girls are fighting the agents. So definitely that proves that. When it comes to all of these things though, we have to understand the delicacy of this situation. And I think about how Baltimore has been changing their crime rates by actually investing in their youth, making sure that youth have things to do. We have to ask ourselves in DC, what things do the youth have to do? Or like, what are they involved with? How do we get them off of the streets? Why are they so concerned with being on the street? What needs are not being met? And furthermore, this whole thing about feeling safe, how do we make them feel safe? And so parents, we have to do a good job, a better job probably, of helping them understand what authority is and how to respect authority, because that's also a problem. If they're going to school disrespecting the teacher and the teacher says something crazy to them back, then the parent wants to be yelling all at the teacher about this, that, and the other, and why they talking to their kid like that. But yet their kid was the one already disrespecting the teacher. So these are things that I feel like as a parent, it's small details like that that escalates them to be where they are, where they're not having the understanding of making good choices for themselves. So those are things that, we have to think about. And then and going into the school specifically, when it comes to those security checks, we have to ask ourselves, do the kids feel safer with having metal detectors there, or do they feel less safe because they feel like they're being treated like a criminal when they may or may not have done anything? So I know that was a concern that one of my daughters is just going to high school, and this was her first experience having to go through the metal detector to go to school. And she was like, oh my gosh, mommy, this was crazy. I had to take stuff out of my backpack, and they checking this and that, and they just treated me like I was a whole criminal and I ain't do nothing. And I was like, well, baby, it's for the security of everyone, not just you. So question to you guys, where do you stand on that? Do you think that schools should definitely have metal detectors, or should they not? And to another question, do you feel like the school should have armed officers or not? And those are things that we always have to ask ourselves, because the world is so crazy out here now. We're dealing with mass shootings at schools, mass shootings in the United States, period, but we're also dealing with specifically at schools. So I have a few of them to talk to you guys about real quick, just so you can refresh your memory of how difficult it is to even think about your kid being in school, focusing on school stuff, but yet they already knew about a mass shooting that happened before. And especially if they attend the school that the mass shooting happened. So like the one case that happened just last year, September 4th, Appalachia High School, which is in Winder, Georgia, they had 4 dead, 9 injured. Okay, and that situation, if you don't know what happened with that, it was a young man who was 14. He was a freshman in this school who had been going through some, domestic abuse type situation with his dad. His mom and dad were going through a divorce, but he made some claims on, what is the platform? He was on social media saying that he actually wanted to commit a mass shooting at his school. And that platform flagged it. They saw it, they took it down, they closed his account, and the authorities got sent to his home. So police was sent to his home, talked to his dad. This was like around March or April of 2023. And the dad assured the police that there was no firearms out that the young man had access to. Although the dad did own firearms in the home, he kept them locked away. Okay, so that happened. We're talking about May, April time frame of 2023. So fast forwarding to December of 2023, Christmas, the dad decides to go and buy a rifle for this young man and take him hunting. He has pictures of him having blood on his face. It was like I don't want to say ritual, but just a family practice that this family went hunting, and that was something that in their family they do. So when it comes to that, the problem, I'm not even going to say the problem. You guys are making your own decisions right now, even hearing this, because I thought this was crazy, the fact that he went and bought this gun that's specifically for his son when they go hunting, a rifle. So that was 2023, December, Christmas time frame. And then going into the new year, the new school year, I should say, this young man is now a freshman who has been having issues with kids being, mean to him and whatnot in middle school. Going through the divorce situation with the dad and mom, which is really bad. The mom has been dealing with some drug issues. The dad is emotionally and psychologically and verbally abusive. And so he's dealing with all of these things. I feel bad for the kid when it comes to that. But his whole decision of hurting others for his problems, this is where we need to think about our psychological, concerns of our kids, period. So this kid decides to go into the school with the rifle in his backpack. Y'all asked me how he got in there. No metal detectors at this school. He went in there with the rifle wrapped around in a poster board. So it looks like it was like a school project or whatnot, hanging out of his backpack. So he went into class like a normal day. Then he got excused from class. He went out the class, went in the bathroom, and actually took the firearm out and whatnot, and then just walked around and started shooting. And that's honestly what happened. Thank goodness this school had a good safety program where they did safety drills and that the doors actually lock when the doors close. That's what actually saved countless of people's lives. The fact that the doors were locked when they closed automatically. So they also had alerted nearby officers that that helps with this type of situation. Your, what do we call them? Reserve officers. So basically, they were able to be called to the scene. And of course, they're armed. They're police officers. They're armed. And when they got to the scene, the young man, seeing that they had their firearm drawn on him, he put his gun down and he put his hands up and got down on the ground like they said. So that's what actually stopped the whole situation. The fact that those reserve officers, school resource officers, I'm sorry, it's the proper term, you might have heard RSO, has gotten there to be able to help with that situation. So it's just amazing when it comes to all of that, honestly. So let's see what you guys are saying here in the comments here. I see Michael, depends on the area. Let's see, the path to Maine. I have 3 kids in high school and they welcome the metal detectors. And I feel you, bro, definitely, Michael said. And hey to Emily, thank you so much for joining. And the path to Maine, you said these kids was failed on so many levels. He had an army of people that should have helped him. And you're exactly right on that when you said that, Maine, honestly, because you think about the fact that we have school counselors, we have parents, we have grandparents, and as a matter of fact, the parents, the mother was actually tipped off and actually was able to call the authorities when this was going down, honestly. So it's like so many different areas that things fail. So that whole idea, if you see something, say something, I feel like when you live closer to the city, you kind of feel like you snitching and you don't want to say nothing or you don't want to get involved in things. But I think we're kind of past that. I think we do need to say something if we see something. Regardless if we think it's going to get somebody in trouble, it may actually save lives, you know, and those are things that we have to make that discernment of what makes sense. And even when we're talking about the situation, February 14, 2018, there was a mass shooting with a 19-year-old who was a previous student of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. That was in Parkland, Florida. He killed 17 people, 17, and injured 18 others. That was such a big deal. I didn't get the full details as to exactly what led up to the situation. What I can tell you is where the situation went downhill is the young man had already left that school, but yet he was found hanging around there during school hours and he was never really asked to leave. He just was able to hang around there for no reason. And then, you know, when it came to the authorities there, they really didn't take the steps they needed to remove him when it was said that he had a whole rap sheet of psychological problems and violent charges and things like that on his record already. So I know as a result of that shooting, the sheriff actually was fired because some things were not done properly leading up to that. So that was a very terrible situation as well. And so DMV Renovations, you said partnering, not the same because it's mostly, parenting is not the same because it's mostly women doing their best to raise a child. That's another good point. When you have a single family home, it definitely changes the dynamics of what can be done and what should be done. When you have a 2-person household, it's very important that kids are seeing how mommy is treating daddy and how daddy is treating mommy. Okay, I don't want to offend anybody in 2025 where I'm going with this. I'm just simply saying that they need to see male and female interactions, and they need to understand how people are supposed to treat other people. And this is one of the things that we're dropping the ball about in many households when we have what we call broken homes, where there's one parent. And so it's really stressful on the kid even, because now they don't really know how that other sex is supposed to behave in certain situations. Don't have a good role model right from the beginning. And so those are things we have to consider. Now, going into these other mass shootings here, the one that tops a lot of stuff for me too is the mass shooting that happened in Paradise, Nevada. Now, that was in Sutherland Spring, Texas. I'm sorry, and that one as well. Those two shootings as well. And those just happened in 2017. 2012, we had Sandy Hook shooting that killed 26 people. And I'm just naming different shootings. As you can see, like, this is crazy, the fact that I can even name these things. That all of these people were innocently taken. And this is the stuff that's hanging over our kids' head as they go into school. To know that stuff like this actually took place, and that there's a possibility that something like that can happen in their very own school. Now, adding to that, they're concerned about whatever street beef, okay? If you live in an inner city area, you may understand that these kids, these YNs, they don't care about safe zones and all this stuff. Growing up in the 80s and 90s, yeah, you had the thugs, and the thugs did this and that, and they had street code. They felt like, certain places was off limits. They wouldn't go into a school and start shooting. They wouldn't go into a church. They wouldn't go into grandma's house or the neighborhood rec center. There were certain places, and women and children were even off the table. And now these kids don't have this type of street code. Now, my company has actually taken part in providing a training for a security team that works in a school, because they had a kid to bring a gun to school. And it definitely scared them that they didn't really necessarily know how to detain that student safely and to get the gun. But they figured it out. It just took them a very long time. And thank goodness no one actually got hurt. But we were there as a company to be able to help them know how to deal with that situation if it ever should happen again. And I feel proud to say that that team actually is still working hard to this day to make sure that school is safe. And they're doing a really, really good job. Y'all know who y'all are, so shouts out to y'all, okay? But when it comes to these things, we have to consider the fact that these kids are dealing with so much, but yet we're asking them to go to school and learn. We're asking them to go to school and focus. How can they, right? So you're right, DMV Renovations, when you say homeschool, lots of parents are considering homeschool being an option that is definitely skyrocketing. And for a good while, I was one that was so against homeschool, only because my experience with having a coworker that did go to homeschool, she was learning so much about social interactions in her 30s, already a wife and a mom, and she didn't understand certain social cues because she didn't go to regular school. She went homeschool, and she didn't have interactions with other people like that. So when I think about that, I thought, well, that can't be good for kids to do homeschool, especially not for that long as she did, because she was from elementary all the way up to high school, and so, or leaving school, period. And so I thought about that. I was like, wow. My sound is choppy. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is hopefully let me know that it fixed itself, Drew. Did my sound get a little bit better? Because I know that my dehumidifier just cut off. So, and I'm gonna turn my sound up now. Let's see, does that help any? Okay, so yeah, let me know if this sound is better, Drew, and anybody else. So, and then somebody said, Drew, you said you think kids don't know God nor the parents, and that's a valid fact right there. They got to believe in something. They got to respect something, and that's something that we got to deal with right there, honestly. Okay, the sound is choppy. I don't know how to fix that right now. Let me see. Yep, don't have a clue how I can fix that right now. Okay. Okay, I hope that fixed it. All right, so I'm just gonna give it a try and see if that is better. And so I know the schools are not too bad, but it's choppy. Keep going. Ugh. All right, well, I'll keep going, Mike. Thanks so much. And welcome, welcome. Welcome back anyway. So the schools do these things called lockdown drills or active shooter drills. And one of the things I thought about with that is, yeah, our kids are being reminded that there's a possibility that their school may go through this. So even if they're not having their ears to the streets and knowing what's going on with the news and other places in the United States about mass shootings going on, their school is inadvertently explaining to them that there's a possibility that something can happen here. So it's heightening the sense of urgency for protection, you know. And so we have to come up with some solutions as far as helping them feel safe, helping them be safe as well. Judy Rowe, thank you for joining. See, homeschooling has changed a lot since its implementation. There are communities and homeschool families where they come together and they may even interact with their local schools for activities, and that makes a lot of sense, definitely, because they need that social interaction. So I'm really glad you put that out there to let me know about those evolutions to that, because we need to know the options. There's private school, there's public schools, there's charter schools, and there's homeschool. And homeschool definitely is evolving to be more community based, with the whole support system and interacting with other kids. So I feel like also kids that play sports also has a nice little advantage to be able to learn how to work with others and be a part of a team. So if you can get your kid involved in sports, I think that also would help too. Doesn't even matter what sport it is, as long as they're learning those key things about social interaction, working as a team, for a common goal type of thing. And I think that also plays a big part in what decisions they make and how they make decisions as they go into being an adult. And definitely as a parent, supporting whatever decision it is as far as the sporting or following the rules at school and things like that. I know one of the biggest concerns for schools is that the cell phone. Lots of schools are saying no. I know in Virginia they're stopping the whole cell phone situation. There's no cell phones allowed and things like that. And so a lot of kids are going they're a little bit unnerving about that. And I know some parents are a little bit worried about it, but at least they're not necessarily taking the phone. Some of them are. And if they are, what do you feel about that? Because honestly, the cell phone situation, it's a matter of people abusing the use of it. And that's the reason why I had to be taken, because it's more of a distraction. I mean, really think about the bullying that happens on social media. It's happening in the school through social media, which is crazy, bonkers, honestly, that girls would attack other girls on how they look and post stuff. Somebody takes a picture, then they post it, and the whole school sees it, like the humiliation that comes along with that. These are other dynamics that a lot of adults may not be able to connect with, because social media was not a part of our generation. But these kids are going through this day in and day out, and we talk about them being weak. I think not. They're going to have to be strong to deal with the stuff they deal with, right? So the thing is, like Michael was saying, most kids don't leave the house outside of school. That is a big deal. And so we have to get these kids outside of the house, outside of school, to interact with other people and have something to do and not be bored in the house. Well, they're probably not bored. They're probably watching TV. They're probably playing the video games and letting social media and the video games teach them. So therefore, with that being said, get the kids out the door, get them involved in something, some family events, get them around some older people too. Like, the sense of community is not there either. The respect for adults, the respect for elderly has gone away as well. I noticed even when I was younger, getting on the train, my friends and I, we might curse, right, around each other. But if there was an adult that stepped in front of us, we ain't cursing. And now I get on the train or the bus and they just da 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 da, and I'm like, wow, okay, yeah, like no respect. So, and even watching some of the things I see on social media posted, like, where did the respect for elderly go? And I think it's more so because they're not in community things like community days where people have like block parties and stuff like that, where you get to communicate with some of the elderly in your community. So those are things where I feel like they lost some of that, and we need to gain some of that back. So let's see, Drew, you said you hate to say it's about classes of life. If you have money, your kids will have more opportunities. And you're exactly right about that. Judy said they will find a way. Bullies exist, and kids knew who they were before social media and cell phones, right? They need to learn to be better, caring, respectful, and more having human. Yep. Parents got, Drew, you said parents got to lead by example. You're exactly right on that. It's so much that I see on social media that blows my mind. The fact that there are some people out here who are actually parents. I'm like, God, why did you make this person a parent? Seriously. So when it comes to those things, it's like I feel so bad for those kids because you don't have the best role model in your home. And that's not to say as a parent you're not going to make a mistake. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. And I try to make sure that I fix them or try to fix them, try to notice them type of things. But it's one of those things that make blunt mistakes. Like you out in public acting all crazy with your kids around, somebody's recording this and you get arrested, or you're defending your kid and being disrespectful. I mean, it's all types of stuff out there that's just crazy. Like, I mean, even I heard on the radio the other day they were talking about a social media posting where the young man was caught in the bed with the girlfriend, and the dad caught them. He came in the room and caught them, and he snatched the young man out the room. And the mother got word that the dad had put hands on her son. So the mother goes to the father's house, well, to the girlfriend's father's house, and da 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 da. You put your hands on my son. All of this, all of that, and I'm like, no. Like, he was already disrespect. Like the father said the rule was he cannot go in the bedroom. Their boyfriend and girlfriend, and he cannot go in her bedroom. That was his rule. And the son blatantly disrespected that, and the mother had no sense to even say, okay, he was wrong, but I'd really rather you not put your hands on my son. Like, these are things that we got to do a little bit differently, and parents have to take some responsibility, because you sitting up here, like justifying basically what your son did, because in the presence of this man saying that he was wrong for putting his hands on him, he better be lucky that's all he did. Because if it happened in my house, I don't know how nice my husband would be about that. I don't think it would be just hands laid on him to get him out the door. I don't know if it would go down like that. Pretty sure it would go worse. Even for myself, oh, it's gonna go down way different than that. So the thing is, the path to Maine said, none of these kids have social media. None of your kids have social media. I understand that. And I definitely watched that too for my kids. I didn't let them get it until a certain age. And so that's what we're working on with that. And even still teaching them how to be responsible with it is more of my thought process. The same thought process with guns, because when it comes to us sheltering our kids from things, we're doing it out of love and because we know certain things. But our kids have to learn it too. And how do they learn it? It's because we need to expose them to it. So we have to understand that social media is all around us, and there are certain levels to it where you can have certain blocks, parental blocks on it and things like that as well. So I always encourage parents that if it's something that may be age appropriate to do when it comes to firearm education, when it comes to social media, possibly might be in your best interest to expose them to it and be right there with them and help them navigate it. Because at some point they're going to get it. And it's better for us to teach them about it versus the world teaching them about it. And that's what my thought process always is with that. So yeah. Now, Drew, you said, let's see, hard to tell 16-year-old no Instagram. That's true. Judy, school have a way to block social accounts and websites during the school day. Makes sense. And if it was my house, I'm calling U.S. Law Shield. I hear you. I hear you, Mike. I'm right there with you, Mike. Yeah, definitely. And then Junior King said, I got GPS on my daughter and I keep AirTag in her hair. They kidnapping girls in VA. Well, hey, look, yo, when I tell you that whole situation is disheartening, okay? I have to do a whole nother conversation on that. Trust me, I'm coming around to that conversation. That will be coming up in the next couple of weeks. You guys definitely stay tuned because we're going to talk about that. I need to do some more research. I need to wait till some more information is coming out about that because you guys know I got to give you some facts. Some speculation of how I feel, but also some facts. So when it comes to stories about that, like the mass kidnappings that we've been noticing, this is crazy for the simple fact that this is not something that has been in the mainstream media. And yet we're having all this other stuff in the mainstream media, but right in our back doors, people's kids are missing. That is not okay. Where are they going? And I mean, I always just think of the worst. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody's right there with me. I think of the worst, and my heart goes out to those parents that are missing their kids. I pray that your kids get back to you safely and that they are okay, honestly, because this is too crazy. Kids should be able to just come back home. They should not be missing. This is not okay. So definitely, I'm gonna read up more on this, Junior King. Definitely get some more information about it. But something definitely is going on, and it's probably a whole lot bigger than what we even know it to be. Usually it is. When things like that is such a mass, big problem, but we don't hear much about it, somebody is silencing the media about this. So we definitely will be talking about that. And great idea about having that AirTag. I might need to do that myself. Definitely. And so definitely when it comes to the whole safety about going back to school, we have to do our part as a parent. One of the things I noticed when my kids' school had started asking for ID before you can even come into the building, before they buzz you into the building, there was one time where the front desk attendant, I hadn't gone to my daughter's school in I don't know how long. I just know that the front desk person most likely would not have remembered me because I hadn't been there in so long. And she just buzzed me in. And I buzzed the button and she said, "Hey, how can I help you? What are you here for?" And I said, "I'm here to do something." I don't know if I was here to drop off something for my daughter or pick her up, one or the other. But I was doing something like that, and she just buzzed me in. And I'm looking, and I'm waiting, and I'm listening, and I'm hearing her buzzing other parents in who's coming in behind me, or at least administrative parents, whoever it was. But she wasn't checking IDs. And I said to her, I said, "Look, you don't know me, but I do safety for a living. And right now, I need you to understand something. I see through that door, there is an officer right there. But they got to get to that officer. And that officer got to get to them. Guess what? You the first person that they're going to come for. And you're just buzzing people in the door. You need to check IDs. You can't trust me saying that I'm a parent, da da da. I may not be a parent. I might have been lying to you. You need to actually check these IDs and get that stuff on camera. You have to do your part. So with me saying this to you guys, what I'm trying to explain to you is do your part. If you see that there's administrative or a teacher or whatever that's not doing their job and it is a safety concern, definitely speak up. Approach them. I said, "Hey, look, I'm not trying to get you in trouble or anything, so I don't need to speak to the principal or anything like that. I want you to do better." And that's what I told her. And I noticed the next time I came, I seen her checking IDs because I think something came, a light bulb in her head, the fact that she is the first person that they're going to see. She's the first person that's going to get that gunshot. And that is something I don't think that resonated in her head. And so when I explained it to her like that, she got it. And after that, she was checking. So yeah, and you're right. You're right. The path to Maine. That it's sad that we even have to have these conversations. You're exactly right about that. But we do, and this is the reality of our life. So what we're gonna do? We got to make sure that we do our part. Honestly. So let's see. And Judy said, "I don't play about them. My girls, I know." But when going forward, honestly, you guys, I just want y'all to think about what things we can actually do to help one another in the community. and not necessarily just rely on the government to fix problems, which is one of the things that's happening right now in DC. The government is what they call cleaning up DC. You know, whether it's from crime and the homeless, they're cleaning up DC. Well, there are other solutions to those problems. There's other things set in place, and I understand that things may not be moving as fast as we would like them to move, but we as a people have to take our part and help as well. And it starts in the home. What type of kid are you raising? And are you raising a person that's going to be a good person in the society or a menace to society? That's what you really have to ask yourself. And whether your answer is one way or another, you need to figure out how to fix this. If it's a menace to society, you need to figure out how to fix this. And if you need some help, there's resources out there for you to get some help to help you with your kid, with different things that they may need. And of course, you know, on a safety tip, I do have other videos that could be helpful for information. As I mentioned before, the Hope on the Streets is an interview I did with Miss Queenie, who is a social worker. She can talk to us, and she has talked to us about the homeless and how the Trump administration idea, or now it's not an idea, it's actually into play now, can actually affect PG County and Fairfax, Virginia, and so forth, so forth. As we're branching out of the DC area, the homeless people are going to go somewhere. And they're talking about they're going to house them, but where? So it's not that many. I know DC's dealing with a lot of vacancies right now, but they're not giving them up for free. So that's what we need to understand, that they're going to go somewhere. And then I've done other lives where I've had live conversations with security guards and school administrators, school teachers. Some of those videos are when kids use guns, and is teachers safe really the possibility in 2025? Another video is should schools have armed guards to prevent shooting? And then also teaching kids about guns. These are all videos that might be some sources of information. If you need some guidance on some of these topics here, those may be some conversations that can definitely help you guys. So let's see, Denver Innovation said, keep your kids out of DC streets right now. Facts. Definitely the facts. You guys, honestly, if you ain't got to be out and about, just don't be out and about in DC right now, honestly. Because it's crazy. It's hard to really know what the true agenda is. We're always told one thing, but they do another, just like a magician, right? So, and that's the biggest problem. We're focused here, but we not really see what's going on over here. And that is the biggest thing that we have to understand, that as a society, as civilians, a lot of times we may not know the true agenda until later on. And so therefore it is better to just explain to our kids, hey, look, we're going to and from our location we need to be. We're not getting into nothing, and we're going to stay indoors unless we need to go somewhere that we have to go, you know. And so I just wish all your kids the best and going back to school. I hope they have an amazing, amazing 2025-2026 school year, and that they're safe and that they're happy and they feel supported, honestly. So best wishes to everyone, and I look forward to seeing you guys again next week. I'm going to have a special guest to help us with some specific tools on how we can support our kids and being safe out and about, whether it's in the streets or whether it's in a school. So we're going to have a special guest come in and help us with that next week. So I'll see you guys Friday next week, same time. And y'all have a great, great time, and talk to y'all soon. Thanks.